The last piece we need to look at in class address book is the OnItemClickListener that responds when the user touches one of the items in the address book list activities list view. And we call that object viewContactListener. It's a new object of an anonymous inner class that implements the OnItemClickListener interface, and that interface consists exclusively of the method OnItemClick. Now, when I used Eclipse to override the one method in this interface, it named my parameters arg0, arg1, arg2, and arg3, and I really should have renamed those to make them more readable. So let's go ahead and take a look at the online documentation for OnItemClickListener so that you can see the actual names of those parameters. Now, the first parameter, parent, is simply the object that the user touched, in particular the list view itself. So we're touching an item within the list view, and the parent of that item is the list view itself. The second object is the actual view, the actual GUI component that the user touched within the list view, and this can be particularly helpful if you have list view items that are more complex. In our case, this will always be a text view for this activity because each list view item is a text view. The third argument is the position that we touched within the list view. So each item in the list view has a position number. And the last argument, the long integer called ID, is the corresponding row ID in our database that represents, in our case, the contact that the user touched. So we're going to actually use that last argument, as you'll see, to pass information to the view contact activity so it knows which contact to get all the information for and display in the view contact activity. So in our overridden OnItemClick method, what we do is first create a new intent object that's going to allow us to launch an intent for displaying the view contact activity. And again, notice the second argument to the intent constructor is the class definition, if you will, for the view contact class. So again, this is the Java shorthand for loading up a class dynamically at runtime. And at line 122, we are doing something new in this case. We're calling the intent's putExtra method, which allows us to put a key value pair of information into the intent, and the launched activity can then access that information and use it to do a task or to perform a task within that launched activity. And in our case, the view contact activity will use the row ID that we're providing to determine which contact to load up from the database and display on the screen. So we put the extra row ID, which is the string name of the key value pair, and the argument 3 again is the long integer that represents that row ID within the database. And just to show you, putExtra can be used with lots of different data types. So here's the intent class in the online documentation, and you can see here that there's many overloaded putExtra methods. All of them take a string as the first parameter, which is the key in the key value pair, and then there's various data types that you can use as the second argument. So in this case, you can see double array, an integer, a char sequence, so that could be something like another string, an individual character value, a bundle object, an array of parcelable objects, a serializable object, so something that could be serialized, and there are many other options here as well. As you can see, I'll just scroll through to show you that there's plenty of putExtra methods that enable you to really load up an intent with all sorts of additional information that can be used by the launched activity. And if you scroll down a little bit further, you can see that you can also put an entire other intent object or a bundle object that contain extras and lots of other options here as well. So there's a robust mechanism for communicating information from the launching activity to the launched activity in Android, and you'll definitely want to take a look at the capabilities of class intent to help you fully understand all the things that you can pass from one activity to the next. So we put this little bit of extra information into our viewContact intent, and then we simply call start activity with viewContact as an argument, and that's going to launch the viewContact activity. And of course, whenever you launch an activity, that takes the current activity and pushes it to the background. So if you have activity lifecycle methods that get executed when an activity goes to the background, they will get executed as part of launching the other activity.